afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Eva. We are from the others online, as already mentioned. I am Boaho Gigante. Yesterday, during the day, we came across news that were making headlines in local media that some of your staff, the security detail in respect, have been withdrawn, and some assets that were not mentioned, including cars. I don't know, there were cars, there were number plates. So would like to clarify on those issues and get the facts straight on what really transpired yesterday.
Well, I was shown a saving grant which was signed by Mahosi, the Director General of DIS. But I think the tone for the saving gram and what was behind the contents is set by how I was referred to in the address portion of the saving gram. It was sent to, addressed to the private secretary to the former president, and then they said SKI Khama. So no mention, because the official title, which is always used for official correspondence, is they should have said H.E. Lieutenant General Dr. Ian Khama. But all they did was they just put SKI Khama. But interestingly enough, when he signed his name, he used his title Brigadier Mahosi. So that right from the start showed disrespect by them, because I've been in this government, as you know. I know how it works. I know how things should be done. And when this is done, which is deliberate, it was obviously deliberately done like that. It was just deliberately done to show that disrespect. So, like I said, that set the tone for what was to come. So there were about 4 or 5 issues that they then were contained in the saving grant. I'm not going to go into detail in 1 or 2 instances because it was a confidential saving grant, and that needs to be respected. So generally what happens was that there are some vehicles that are used by my support staff, and they were saying that they were taking away 3 of those vehicles.
3 vehicles?
3, but they were going to replace 1 of them.
Only 1, so
Only
you're
1.
losing 2.
So they're taking away 2. Now, I need to emphasize that these are not my personal vehicles. When I say personal, I mean those which are allocated to a former president as a benefit under the Constitution. But as part of the benefit, you are given support staff. And in this particular area, these support staff are given vehicles to help them carry out their tools for the work that they have to do in support of the former president. So in taking away 2 of the vehicles, clearly it is designed to stifle or for my work to suffer, because it means, which is the object of the whole exercise, is that the staff should then not be able to fully function, and therefore my work would suffer as a result. And what is interesting is that these vehicles have been there for, it'll be 2 years by the time they are taken away. So then you ask yourself, well, what has happened now for these vehicles to be taken away? The second one was the issue of the registration of those vehicles which are for my personal use. When I was given those vehicles, they came with registration numbers. And in this case, one was BX 180001 and the other one 0002. So they've written to say that they're withdrawing those numbers. Something to do, they say, to align with good practice.
Good practice.
And per state protocol. That's it. I mean, with this whole thing,
okay,
there's no explanation. And they didn't have the courtesy to come, as you would expect a normal government to do. Dealing with a former president, they would say, okay, these things have been going on for 2 years. We want to make some changes. We'd like to come and see you and discuss it with you, or to just to inform you.
So you're never engaged at all?
Nothing
this
at all.
Just came
and that has been
warning.
That has been the trend. That has been the trend. So you just wake up one day, you'll find a letter or saving gram waiting for you, and they have taken the further actions. Just like when they removed me being the tourism ambassador, Vision 2036 champion, even though I had resigned 2 months before they sent the letter, and the chancellor of the university, agricultural university. There's no discussion, there's no explanation.
You just
so this thing is to, you can see, how do they sit there and they plan, what more can we take away from him? So in this case, one of the few things left in LA, the registration.
What is the importance of this registration?
Now,
numbers?
When they say good practice and state protocol,
Yes.
I can only imagine, because I think one paper suggested that are these not reserved for the president, those numbers, and the vice president? But like I said, when I left office, those were the numbers that came with the vehicles. Now, if they felt at the time that no, they wanted this for the president, then they should have done this in 2018. Because if you look at CTO registration or government registrations, BX, each year they buy new vehicles. They will put the year on the number plate. So it will be BX 16 if they were vehicles bought in 2016, 17, 18, 19, 20. So these came in 2018. So that's why they've got BX 18. Yes.
001.
So if they had acquired a vehicle then for him in 2018, they would have said, okay, let's take it there. So the whole of 2018 goes by, and they knew we had these registrations. They didn't think the need to remove them there. Then we went into 2019. 2019, similarly, the whole year went by. And now it's the year after 2018, they didn't want them. Suddenly in 2020, they want the registrations 2018. So if it was for good practice or protocol, or even for whoever's president, and he's buying a vehicle now, it will come with this year's registration. So the reasons they give here, plus the fact that they didn't come here, because they're at a disadvantage, because they know that I know the procedure. They would not be able to justify their reasons. So I already heard last year, for your information,
Yes.
that it had been said that they must try to take those registration plates for me because they look too special, too nice. Gaurigi 001.
They look too nice.
Yeah, I mean,
Is that
the
the
number, I mean,
reason?
it's a nice number, I get it, 0001. So they just thought, yeah, this gives him too much profile or status, so let's take them away.
But
So-
do you feel that yourself? That
Do I
it
feel
gives you, the number plates are the ones giving you the special kind of...
All I know and all I care about, and I'm glad you asked that question, a number at the end of the day is a number. When the vehicle transports me around, I'm not staring at the number plate. So it's just there that each government car is allocated a registration. And these vehicles were allocated registration numbers. So if they are going to change the books, and that these cars the registration recorded in their books is going to be removed, and they're going to allocate them other BX numbers. I have no problem with that, because it's not about the numbers. But for them, obviously it is, because otherwise they wouldn't be trying to take them away and trying to find excuses to remove them. But like I said, why did they wait 2 years? Because by the time they move them next month, it will have been 2 years. So you just realize that they're up to something.
Okay.
The next issue was to do with equipment, which I don't want to go into. But there's a story behind this, and it's regrettable that because we are talking about security things, you would see how ridiculous this decision is. But all I can say in general terms is that it's just another step they've taken which erodes the security that I've been afforded. And there has been a general erosion of my security over time. And then lastly is to do with personnel,
Okay.
where they have taken away another 2 officers. I say another 2 because towards the end of last year they took away 3, and now they've taken another 2 without being replaced rather. And again, to show the discourtesy that we have come to now live with this regime, they didn't come and say, okay, because in the Constitution, even though I'm given certain personnel, and especially in the security sector, there's no number given. It's the prerogative of the president to decide how many security personnel a former president should have. So he can give you 1, or he can give you 100. It's entirely up to him. So, but you would expect that if you've been given a security detail, which you've been with for a couple of years, and in this case, I've been with them for even when I was in office, and before I was in office as well. They would just common courtesy would be they would come and say, okay, you're over the numbers, if I'm over the numbers, and we're going to cut. We want to cut 2 people or 3 people or whatever. And then they would say, do you have a preference for who you would prefer to stay with? If things are working normally, that's how it would be done. You don't just get a sledgehammer one day and say, you cut, you take who you want. There's no consultation, as if they are talking to somebody from Mars. So I'm here in the country, having been a former president, and this is the extent they go. So that's it.
Okay.
But what I would just like to indicate, because I know there have been comments about benefits and entitlements.
Yes.
In the Constitution, there are certain specific benefits which are given a former president. Okay? So, in this case, none of those have been touched or taken away. That I want to emphasize.
That we haven't.
No. They haven't taken away anything that I was entitled to. But support staff and vehicles, for them to be able to perform their duties to support a former president, that is what has been taken away, and it's been done in order to ensure that the work I do suffers. That is a fact.
Okay.
You would understand, even in the Constitution, it wouldn't mention that you're entitled to this registration number or that registration number. But the fact that they were originally given and now they've been taken away, you just see it's part of the agenda to frustrate.
Okay. You're talking about the erosion of your security by the state, the allies that is doing it. How do you feel? Do you feel kind of in danger or exposed or somehow not safe?
You know, that's a good question, because you have to ask yourself, with some of the stories which have come out in recent times around me and threats, you begin to wonder. You wouldn't be human if you didn't wonder, Hore, but why would they be eroding my security and not coming to explain to me why they are doing it? Because I, as you know, have been in the security services. I know a lot, and I still do know a lot about how things should be done. So when you see things done like that, you know that there is definitely something behind it.
So you believe there's
It's not
something,
innocent.
there's really something behind.
I certainly believe so, yeah.
Okay. So what are you doing about it?
Well, you mean in challenging this?
As in, maybe your
or trying
response
to
to
challenge
that,
this?
your
No,
response
my
to
response really, no, I'm not responding.
Okay.
All
You're
I'm doing, I'm
accepting
explaining
is
to you what has happened.
Okay.
But I'm not going to take this up with them,
Okay.
because I think, like I've said to some others, I want to be the adult in the room.
Okay.
Because this is, it's petty, it's childish, and it's just the ongoing campaign. And I just thought, well, I know in here they have the right to do these things, but the way they're going about it is what is unfortunate and regrettable.
So do you think, okay, what do you think? They have not engaged you to discuss anything to
No.
before that?
No.
Are you in talking terms with the author of that saving grant?
He has never,
any relationship left?
the last time he spoke to me could have been, I think, in May last year.
May last year.
Yeah.
So you've not been talking
Yeah.
at all?
And his responsibility
Yes.
as the head of DIS, which is responsible for the security of presidents, former presidents, vice presidents, and he once said it to me, is to occasionally clock in with us to see if there are any issues that we may have, any problems, any issues. Even, we are working with his staff here, and to say that, are they okay, are they working well, do you have any complaints or issues like that, or if there are any developments, they come and brief you. But he has just decided to cut himself off completely from any kind of communication with myself.
Any reason why? You might know.
I think if you have followed what's been going on in this country and what the DIS have been up to, especially him, I don't want to say the DIS because I don't want to paint all of them with the same brush. But him and a couple of others, I'm not surprised. So it's just,
it doesn't come as a threat. So
it's where he's abandoned his professionalism of saying that it is my job to look after these gentlemen. Doesn't matter what I think of them or what they think of me, that is my job. I'm a professional. But in his case, he has allowed his personal emotions and his personal agendas to get in the way of his professionalism.
So with all this that you're saying, is it safe, or will it be correct to say there's still a battle ongoing between you and the current leadership of this country?
Without doubt. I mean, I think you may have been there when I held that press conference just almost last month, actually December,
Yes.
about that affidavit that was generated by this government against me. That's one of the things they did, and this is another thing. The issues which impinge on my benefits, I have given to my lawyers, and they are going to take them to court. And there are a number of them that are going to court, and
So
we're just waiting for dates.
Currently, how many cases are we anticipating? Because so far, since you left
I
office,
can't tell
there's
you
been
off the top
a
of
few.
my. I cannot
the
tell
top
you,
of your head,
but there
yes.
are a few.
There are a few.
There are quite a few. Yes.
So how according to you, how long are you anticipating this war to take between you and this current leadership? If there's anything to stop it?
Is anything to stop it?
I couldn't.
Well, there are those who I'm engaged with,
Yes.
who are trying to
Try and
find a
normalize
resolution, yeah, and we'll see how far that goes. But like I was telling them recently, that every time where there may be light at the end of the tunnel, something like this happens, and it looks like it's sort of like deliberately done to scuttle any attempts at reconciliation. That's just my own personal view. How does it happen that he knows and I know that we've got wise people attempting and elders attempting to bring about a resolution, and they would continue fueling the fires?
Okay. So we can conclude that there was some negotiation ongoing to try and resolve this.
You know, over time,
Yes.
there have been groups, there have been individuals who have offered their services, and none from my side have ever been turned away. But there is one group that remains engaged up until this point in time.
Do you mind telling us a little bit more about that
I
particular special group?
will tell you after this interview is over, because I can say there are 4 of them.
Okay.
I think their names may have come up somewhere in the past in the media, but because there are 4 of them, and then I'm the 5th person who's engaged, it would be fair. They may not want their names to come out.
Okay.
So I think, to be fair to them, they should. I should consult them. But when I say I'll give your names to them, it means then after this interview, you can go and ask them whether they would want their names to be revealed. And if they say no, I would plead with you to respect that and not reveal who they are.
So in conclusion, yes, there was a process that was ongoing.
There still is.
There still is in the middle of that.
Yeah.
And you feel this.
I've informed them about this.
Okay, you just informed them.
They're informed them when it happened, and I just said to them.
How did they feel about it? Disappointed?
Very
or?
much so.
Okay.
Very much so.
So are these elders? Well, I'm taking too far.
And they're not the original elders.
Oh, the elders
Yeah.
from
None
before.
of them are from those original elders.
Okay, that we mentioned
Yeah.
before.
That were known before.
Okay. Maybe drive into the conclusion. You're talking about your work being somehow.
Yeah, the idea is that the work should
to
suffer.
suffer.
Yeah.
How are you going to make sure that it doesn't, if you have intentions of making sure
Well,
that you continue with your work?
If you don't mind, I'd rather not tell you,
Yes.
because if I tell you,
No.
they will pick it up and then they will try to see. I've already put in plans as to how I will continue with my work. And you know what my work is. It's covered on my Facebook page. It's mostly, to do with charity, which for some reason I've never understood to this day why they bend over backwards to try to frustrate and to halt. But it will continue, and nothing of this nature would stop it.
Okay.
Even if it ends up one day, I'm left with one security officer, and he has no vehicle and nothing like that, my work will continue. Yeah.
Even without any security detail.
Well, I have security.
Your personal
I
security.
have private. Yeah.
Yes.
And
Okay.
they came in because I saw this erosion.
You saw it coming.
Yeah. It started.
So you can say
And
you
so-
anticipated all this. You anticipated
Yes, I knew
all
it would
this.
happen.
In conclusion, before you say your last words, this one is not part of this, but I would also try and bring back the topic of the rhino poaching. It's been a cry that rhinos are being killed, like it has never happened
Left,
before in
right,
our
and
country.
center. Yeah.
Yes, and of recent, your name has been flying like indirectly people trying to accuse you of saying you have a hand in all these killings. I would like to directly put it up to you to say, do you have any hand in all these rhino killings? And if not, why would people?
I have as much hand.
Feel about people saying
I have as much hand in the poaching of rhino as I did in the theft of 100 billion bula from the Bank of Botswana.
Okay. So that's your conclusion.
That is the best way I can
Answer it.
answer it. It's the same like accusing me of being an alcoholic.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but if I can just expand a bit on this. When you're failing and you have got no answers, no ideas on how to address your problems or challenges, you then want to blame other people for your failings. So for me, it's such a ridiculous assertion that all, most of my working life, I've been involved in conservation. These rhinos, we had a program of bringing them into Botswana to boost our tourism product, and it worked. Botswana was seen as a safe haven. The rhinos, as we explained the other time when we were in the KRS, were brought into the country for that purpose, and suddenly I would become a total idiot and say I'm going to undo everything that I built up for the benefit of this nation. You may be aware that I'm hosting a workshop,
Anti-poaching
a conference
summit.
to do with human-wildlife conflict and anti-poaching next month.
Oh, next month.
And that is part of my responsibility belonging to two international organizations that I'm doing it under that mandate. So I'm still, even in my current capacity, determined to do that. And like I've said before, I'm in the process of setting up a foundation. And this foundation will also have conservation as one of its pillars, so that I'll be able to continue the work. This time, that foundation focuses entirely on Botswana, whereas my international obligations focus on a number of other countries as well.
Okay.
So, I think I've answered
Yes.
very clearly on that one.
Okay. Your last words, and I would love that in your closing you mentioned this part. A lot of people will be asking, you always appear to be strong from the outside. Everything has been happening, so much has happened. You have left the ruling party, you've had fallouts that went public, you've been scrutinized publicly by whoever it is, and we never know exactly how are you feeling. How are you feeling? Are you okay? And maybe how is all this affecting those that are around you or yourself? Most
Well,
importantly,
I can't speak clearly. People who I interact with have come forward, including a lot in the BDP, I must add, and they don't like what's going on,
Yes.
and they want it to end sooner rather than later. Even in the government, those public officers that I deal with in ministries from time to time, I find them so helpful and still very respectful. There's just a small handful of people who are promoting this agenda for their own self-interest. So what overwhelms me is the amount of words and writings of support when these kind of things happen that I get from many people around the country. They just say, don't worry about it, hang in there. So really what motivates me, every time when something like this happens, I say to myself, this is designed to achieve an objective, to frustrate me. So all it serves to do is to motivate me to do more and to do it better. So it actually strengthens you, because you know, I've been putting up with this nonsense for 2 years, almost 2 years now. And for me, it's just a way of life. You know, these things happen. You deal with them. It's just like, you know, when water's flowing down a slope, if you put a rock in its path to try and stop it, the water will find a way around it, and it will continue on its path. And that's exactly what I'm doing. They're trying to put up a lot of these obstacles to stop the flow, but they won't succeed. And the current will get stronger and stronger.
Okay. Thank you very much, sir, for giving us the opportunity to hear the facts straight from you. We hope to be invited to the summit. Yes.
You're invited.